Thank you for joining us on Forum 360. I'm your host, Leia Love, where we have a global outlook from a local view. Today, we are so excited. We have Erin Victor, who is the founder of Akron Snow Angels and the Director of Engagement and Events at Focal Point. And today, she's going to talk to us about her organization, Akron Snow Angels, and how she spreads warmth to Akron, or how the organization spreads warmth to Akron. Thank you for joining us, Erin.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. So tell me a little bit about Akron Snow Angels, how you came up with the name and how you came up with the actual organization. What's that story?
Sure. So Akron Snow Angels actually started basically from a fluke. One day I was with torchbearers volunteering at St. Bernard's downtown, and we were feeding the homeless. It was a Wednesday night. It was the last Wednesday in January of 2015, and it was that one winter that we got that crazy cold front. I mean, it was probably one of the coldest winters that we had had in a long time. So we were working in the soup kitchen, and there were all these people that were coming in without coats on. And there were three people that stood out to me that night while I was volunteering. One gentleman was on the heater trying to get his feet warm, which were basically, I mean, they weren't frostbite yet, but they were pretty blue and really cold, and he had holes in his shoes and no socks. There was another man who was trying to explain why he was there, because a lot of the times, people need services, but, it can be, you feel uncomfortable sometimes in those situations taking things. So you want to explain the reason you're there. And he was trying to talk to me, and I kept thinking he was trying to ask for a straw, and he was getting frustrated. But what he was really trying to tell me is that he had a stroke, and that's what led him to have to be involved with going to the soup kitchens and things like that. So this gentleman actually made minimum wage as a car porter, ended up having a stroke. He didn't have any family here, or really any family. He was in his 60s. And he was homeless and living in a shelter. And the last person that really basically ended me in tears when I got home that night was there was a lady that walked in, and I just thought she was a larger in stature lady. But as I watched her, she started unzipping dusters, which are those little zipper type robes. She was unzipping them, and she had multiple on. And finally, the last layer was a coat, and she had a little newborn baby strapped to her. The baby was probably only a couple months old. And I immediately just thought, if she slipped on that ice outside, it was super icy that day, what could potentially happen. And my sister had just had my niece, so it just hit close to home, thinking of, what this mom and her baby, what they were going through. So that was the catalyst. Those people and being there, that was like the catalyst that helped everything start. I went home that night, and I opened up my coat closet, and I looked, and I was just almost embarrassed because I had so many different coats. And then I had a huge box of hats, another box next to it of scarves, and another box next to it of gloves. And I just kept thinking about all the people that didn't even have any of those items, and it was below zero that night. So I then went upstairs. I will never forget this moment. I went upstairs, I got ready for bed, and I opened up my drawer. I have this big drawer of all these fuzzy, warm socks, and I started crying. I thought, that man didn't have any socks, and here I am with probably 50 pairs of socks in this drawer. And I immediately went to social media and put a big post together just basically about how I met all these people tonight. There's so many people that are cold, that are hungry, they don't have proper clothing for the winter, and that I came home to this, house full of gloves, scarves, all these things that I hardly use, boots that I probably hadn't worn at all. I just have them. And, wrote a meaningful post, said that I wanted to, get some items together to give to people. And I went to bed. I woke up the next morning to a friend calling me saying, you should get your address off of Facebook, because in my post I had said, if you want to drop off any items of clothing, drop them off at my house. I'll make sure to get them to the right place. And I said, why, what's going on? She goes, your post went viral. There's been like thousands of shares and so many people talking about it. I'm like, okay. So in the meantime, a friend of mine from high school called and she said, let's, get something started. And we, Annabelle's bar in Highland Square said that they would be a donation drop-off location. And so that weekend we had a big donation drive and it blew up from there. So that next Tuesday I went into the office and found out, well, somebody called me and said, wow, front page of the Plain Dealer, huh? And I said, what are you talking about? And I left. He said, you're on the front page of the Plain Dealer. I left. I went to the gas station. And as soon as I walked in the door, somebody said, oh, you're the girl in the paper. And I thought, oh no, what is happening? So I went and lo and behold, there was an article on the front page of the Plain Dealer about everything that they saw on social media. Some people that we had met that, worked for the paper and everything like that. So it kind of just bloomed from there. And within 6 months, we realized that the need was so big and we just kept it going winter after winter.
Okay, so what are some of the services that you guys offer?
Sure. So our main goal is to spread warmth and connect to the most vulnerable. So it doesn't necessarily mean just the homeless population. It can mean children in schools of lower income where the kids might need some help. It also can mean different families in certain areas as well. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody has the clothes that they're to stay warm in the winter. That's the main thing. And that's how we started. But the more that we started handing out those clothes to different people, especially the homeless population or certain areas of town, we realized that people really wanted to be seen and talked to and heard and able to tell why they were in these situations. So our mission quickly changed. By the second season, we realized our mission really was to help those people, but to actually be able to talk to them, figure out the situations and listen to them so that we can, number one, connect them to different places in the city where they can get help because we have so many great resources. And number two, that we can just talk to them so that they have somebody to talk to. There's so many times, when you're homeless or in certain situations, you basically are, staying away from other people because if you're homeless, you don't want people to know where you live because, you can be kicked out in an instant. Or sometimes there's mental health, so you're nervous to talk to big groups of people, but having those one-on-one relationships are important. So that's what we did. We tried to make sure to spread the warmth to people, but to connect with them as well. And then we want to inspire other people to do the same. So those are our three main pillars.
Aw. You know what? I absolutely love your heart and your compassion because I think oftentimes that's probably the biggest missing piece. Money can do so much, it can only do so much, but, somebody's heart towards helping others is what really makes a bigger difference and how you're able to have a better
Yeah,
impact.
definitely.
Speaking of relationships, what's been how have you been able to cultivate these relationships with the people in the community that are homeless that you're serving?
Yeah. So everything that we've done is just basically making sure to be in areas where people may need us. We don't knock on anybody's doors. We're not really, just we're not like hiking through. We do hike through to find different people in tents, but after they've told us where they are, things like that, we kind of think of it as, sometimes people showing up at your own home and you're like, oh no, let me duck down in the couch so nobody, knows that I'm home because I'm not prepared. And I feel like other people feel the same way, right? It doesn't matter your circumstance. So we really want to be in areas where people know where to find us. And then we cultivate those relationships. And then you become friends with people and then they really confide in you. And honestly, you end up being friends with people. Just last night, I was checking in on two different people that I know that are actually out there living on the streets and, just checking in with them and not because it's snow angels, because they're my friends. So, and I know that so many of our volunteers, they do the same thing because everybody connects to somebody, right? So it's so good to have different volunteers from all different walks of life and places in the community, different religions, all different types of people, because, people gravitate towards different people. So we work really hard to have, those that available. So that's kind of how we cultivated it. It just, I think people gravitate towards someone, and then the volunteers take on friendships, and that's kind of how it goes.
Now, what do you think is one of the more frustrating pieces or misconceptions that people have?
Yeah. Um, I think, thinking that, people are just homeless. I mean, you've heard so much about this lately. I mean, I know at least in our community, but thinking that people are just lazy, or thinking, they can easily get a job, or they can easily get housing. I know that our community works so super hard, and the organizations in our community work so hard to get housing for people. And we're trying really hard, but it isn't that easy. And, I think our, our community, our mayor, I think everybody has, the right things at heart, but it's not that simple, and it's not that easy. And, especially when it comes to mental health, some people are just struggling with that. And unless they really have some major permanent supportive housing to fall back on, they're not going to be able to go into an AMHA housing and succeed. They're just not. I have a gentleman that literally just got kicked out of AMHA housing. Well, he didn't get kicked out. He didn't get his disability, and so he wasn't able to pay for it. But he really needs disability, not because he's not able to work. I think sometimes you really need to sit down, and you have to have relationships with these people to really understand what they're going through. And I know that's really time consuming. So I don't think there's a really quick fix for anything, but I know the majority of the people that I've worked with and helped, they're not lazy. They'll be the first ones that want to help me do some of the hardest work or find certain jobs to do, but they don't necessarily fit into a normal society where they can get to work easily. And I think even in the impoverished neighborhoods, people that don't have cars, getting on a bus to get to another bus to get to work at a certain time, or even to get to those appointments, it's not easy to be able to do that. Transportation is a huge, huge issue for people in impoverished circumstances, or even the homeless, trying to get from place to place to place to get those services.
And if you are just tuning in and joining us, we are talking to Erin Victor, who is the founder of Akron Snow Angels and the director of engagement and events for Focal Point. And we're talking about spreading the warmth in Akron with the Akron Snow Angels organization. So getting back to our next question, what are some of the other issues that people may have as barriers?
Definitely. We talked about transportation. I think another thing is, unfortunately, it's expensive. Even if you don't have a job that's paying decent, you really can't afford to live. I think the last time I looked, I believe a mother with one child would need to make $42,000 a year to be able to live and to not be on assistance. So, if you make less than that, you're taken out of assistance, and then it's not worth it, and you can't make ends meet. So I think that's a big thing for people. And I definitely think I will always go back to the mental health issue, at least for those in the homeless community, because I think they really want somebody to listen to their circumstances and help them to make the decisions, not to have everybody make the decisions for them. And again, I know that is very time consuming, but unless we go about it the right way, it's going to be a cycle, and they're just going to end up back there. Also, a lot of the people that we see as well have been emancipated from the state because they were foster kids. And I know with the opiate epidemic and everything like that, I know that there's a lot of kids in foster care right now who, need foster parents, or ultimately would need adopted. So I just think there's so many
There's a lot of
issues.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think what Snow Angels really wants to do is go out and try to at least get to know those people so we can advocate. There's a gentleman, well, there's been a few of them, but people that we really get to know them and we understand their circumstances, and then we're really able to start help advocate for them a little bit as well. So yeah.
So some people are watching right now and they're like, I want to help. What is the top need, top resources? How can they get involved and help your organization?
Yeah, so we're always looking for volunteers, all different types of volunteers. You don't necessarily have to be the most outgoing volunteer, but if you are outgoing and you love to talk to people and learn about people, I think that's important. One thing I will say about all of our volunteers, they're very passionate. Some of the best people I've ever met. I just feel so blessed that this kind of came to fruition, because I've become best friends with people that I wouldn't have ever met in a different circumstance. So I think just having an open mind and being willing to just go out there and realize that, we're all cut from the same cloth, every single one of us. So, always looking for people. Unfortunately, right now with this current landscape with COVID-19 things, we're not able to have our big events like normal, just because we can't get that many people into one spot, especially with weak immune systems for some of our homeless people. We can't have a group of 100, 200 homeless people in an area right now. So right
I was
now,
just going to ask you, how's that affected your organization, the missions?
it has. So what we've been doing is really just helping, like one-offs and helping in other different ways. I've gone out a couple times and taken food out. Other people, other volunteers of mine have been doing the same thing, making drop-offs, but we just can't have those big groups of people together. My main worry is to then have, my friend homeless man Joe come in to our mission when he usually is by himself out there, and then come in contact with someone and not be able to get the treatment that he needs. So right now, we are always collecting items that we need and that we continually take out. So toiletries, winter coats. So if you're spring cleaning your closets and you have winter coats that your kids have grown out of, or you're going to get a new one, we can take those. Any winter clothing items, sweaters, sweatshirts, hoodies, pants, all things like that. So if you go to our website, akronsnowangels.org/donate, there's a list of all the different things that we can take. Right now, we're asking, if possible, if you can keep those until some of our donation drop-off locations reopen. That would be really helpful. If that's not an option and you're like, I have to get them out of my house, please email akronsnowangels@gmail.com, and then I'll come out and get them, or I'll give you an alternative drop-off location. We're just trying to, we usually have drop-off locations, and unfortunately a lot of those businesses are closed. And then we also want to make sure that it's okay with them, once things get up and running, how we're going to man that. So it's kind of a work in progress right now of how we'll move forward with the donations. But so that's good. I mean, obviously monetary donations always help with our special requests. So if somebody needs steel toe boots to get a job, we're able to use that money to get them steel toe boots. We also use it to help other organizations, like Women's Endowment Fund right now was, they do a lot for women and girls, maybe in certain situations. I know that they've helped a lot of the people, or a lot of the organizations that work with some of the same clientele as, the friends that we serve. So, we made a donation to them right now through this. So we're always trying to kind of make sure to help the organizations and the people that all kind of fall into our category. So monetary donations are always accepted as well and put to good use. We don't really have much overhead. Jill Bacon Madden lets us use our warehouse space. We really, we're very, very blessed where the majority of all the donations go right back into helping someone in need. Yeah.
Good. So you mentioned some of the other organizations that you work with or partner with. What are some of those other resources that people could take advantage of that may need the other assistance that you kind of work with a lot hand in hand?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, battered women's shelters, amazing. If you need something, definitely reach out to them. United Way of Summit County has the 211 service right now, which is real helpful for people to find different services as well. But if you have a hard time getting through to them, shoot us an email. We'll also try to direct you to the right place. Um, let's see. Oh my gosh. Of course, I'm gonna forget a bunch of things right now because you put me on the spot. No, you didn't. Oh my
There's
gosh.
just so many. The good thing is that there's a lot of resources, so there's just so many to have to choose from. So that's a good
Oh,
thing.
there's so many resources. When we get clothing donated that's dress clothing, it's not something that we normally would take because we don't have capacity to keep it all. But when we do get it, we make sure to give it to Open M, or
Okay.
they have a clothing resource room. We also the Urban League, they have a really nice clothing room there as well for people going to interviews or needing dress clothing. And then also, you know, I think that's really the two places that we give it to right now. Oh, Battered Women's Shelter for the dress clothing for women, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, always trying to make sure the resources get to the right hands.
Yeah. So we can definitely make sure that people can contact you still through the website. And if they do need additional resources or the drop-off locations, all those are listed on there too.
Definitely, definitely.
Perfect. Perfect. So let's talk about you. How do you balance running your nonprofit and still working full
Yep. Oh my goodness.
time?
Let's see. Bottom line is the nonprofit is something that I love to do. So to me, it's something I like to do in my spare time. My job is also my passion, which is really nice as well. And that has to come first and foremost because if I don't have a job, I'm not going to be able to help anybody either. So my work comes first. And luckily in my work, we're a marketing agency and we work with tons of different nonprofits as well as business to business and business to consumer. So I get fulfilled in my daily job as well with helping people, which is really nice. And then I can, do my nonprofit in my spare time. So I guess, it's easy to balance something when you like all the things you're doing. I know that sounds like I don't know, kind of a goofy way to say it, but honestly, I like both things, so I'm able to kind of balance them in a little bit different of a way. Yeah.
Good. In our last minute here, what would you like the legacy of Akron Snow Angels to be when you're looking down years and years from now?
Honestly, I just really the thing that I've loved about Akron Snow Angels is that it's helped not just the people we're helping, it's helped bring people together in other ways. So I think I would like the legacy to be that whole like hashtag thing that we have, spread the warmth. Thinking of spread the warmth of heart, the warmth of understanding, of compassion, the warmth of the clothing, of course, but that's honestly that clothing is just really a way to get in there and really show people that we care and we want to hear about them. Not just do a drop off. We want to really talk to them. So I think my legacy of the organization would just be that we want to be a legacy of compassion and warmth, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And then what's been really quick in like 20 seconds, what's been your most exciting mission or story or most rewarding experience?
Oh my gosh, when somebody gets placed in like a home and you know that they're in a great circumstance, that's to me is the most rewarding. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and your organization with us. We're really appreciative that you just, candidly volunteering, took that and made it a life-changing experience for not only you, but for others in the community. So thank you again for joining us for Forum 360, where we have a global outlook from a local view. And we got to have the opportunity and the honor to speak to Ms. Erin Victor of Akron Snow Angels. And we want to encourage you all to continue to spread the warmth and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.